My name is Harmony Siganporia and I teach in the area of culture and communication at MICA. I teach courses on semiotics, metaphors and narratives, and Imagining India, which is the course that I will be talking to you about today. Around the time that I started teaching the course in term 3, we had realized that ChatGPT was ubiquitous. Students everywhere were using it. It was a much wider problem that I think everyone in academia was grappling with. We could have taken one of two approaches. We could have designed strong guardrails around the use of it, or we could have done, I think, the more interesting thing, which was to actually make it a part of our pedagogy. I had been spending quite a lot of time using ChatGPT in October, November, and into December last year to kind of see the structures that inform its data set, to try and discover what its limits were, in a sense. And I realized quite quickly that it was being a language predictor. It was very good at pulling up data, some of which was real and some of which was not. What it could not do was offer analysis, and what it could not do was fact check its own material. So I designed an assignment for the students to simultaneously get them to recognize the limits of what ChatGPT could or couldn't do circa the beginning of 2023, and to make sure that they were still accountable for the knowledge that they were producing. I made them fact check it. I'll get into more details with an example.
As you can see from the student essay provided as an example of this assignment here, the errors from ChatGPT start coming in fairly early. A couple of prompts in, it makes a factual error when it suggests that the topic this student was working on, which was female impersonators on the early Indian theatrical stage, something we discussed in class, she was able to call out that there was an error in what ChatGPT had stipulated. And from that point on, every single prompt included pointing out the factual errors. And at this point, it's not even conceptual, it's just factual errors that stem from the next few pages. It isn't all the way until the end of the assignment, as you can see, that she finally gets ChatGPT to put together all the changes that she'd been making, the errors that she had to keep calling out, whether it was which actor played what in what production, or whether we were talking about Parsi theatre at all. For some reason, GPT obviously doesn't have a lot in its training data about Parsi theatre. But ultimately, what we wind up with many iterations later is an essay that is factually robust, and one that she's had to work with GPT to kind of actually provide any kind of useful overview.
It's the last comm area course of the year, so it's where we hope to see students synthesize everything that they've learned from all our courses over the course of an academic year. And their final assignment has always traditionally been for them to design a research question and do a mini dissertation based on any of the topics that I cover in the 16 sessions of the course. But I wanted them to construct their essay using ChatGPT. So what I told them I would be checking for was the quality of their prompts and iterations. So they were supposed to come up with or formulate a research question based on the material that we'd covered in the course, following which they were to do anywhere between 10 and 15 iterations of that question to probe what GPT could turn out as answers to those research questions. And they were supposed to fact check it thoroughly, because students were instructed at the beginning that any factual errors or any prejudicial blind spots that we encountered when we were grading, they would be held accountable for, and they would receive grade cuts for. So while they were building the assignment, while they were doing the work that they would have done ordinarily, they were now doing it on ChatGPT, and this was also a good way for them to recognize, as I was saying earlier, the limits of what the platform can and cannot do, and why it requires human intervention at this point in order to modulate, in order to course correct, in order to provide learner feedback and create a a more robust kind of research ecosystem. What the students took away from the assignment, I think, is fairly close to what I intended them to, because I still have conversations with them now a year later where they tell me that this was an assignment that was deeply instructive to them. Because I think they did realize that at the moment, while they're able to generate large amounts of filler text using ChatGPT, the real work of synthesis, analysis, and importantly, fact-checking still falls to them to do. We were embracing it with a view to critically evaluating what it was possible for us to do on these platforms and what they made possible for us to do better.